What is it that makes avoidant men feel attacked?
You always. I hate it when you don't. I always.
The absolutes.
But what are you talking about? You never brought up a problem until literally 20 minutes ago. You've been telling me that you're happy. You cannot sit there and criticize and question me all the time because you have feelings. Learn to manage your emotions like a fucking adult in adult ways so you can live with an adult. Because guess what? You're not going to find Mr. Right because they don't exist. And if you're super anxious and you haven't taken care of yourself, they're not going to go for you.
Did you know that everything you just said is wrong?
No, I did not know that.
No, here's why. Today we're talking about the vast divide between anxious partners and avoidant partners and how they hate each other's guts, but they actually love each other.
You know, Adam, it was really interesting in the last episode we did about avoidance, how annoyed people were, especially the anxious people, and they really drive me up the wall sometimes. You know, we had some conversations in the last podcast where we, you know, kind of enacted and simulated some conversations that you and I never really had, but, you know, many of your clients have had, and it pissed so many people off. It pissed so many people off because they jumped in and they were just ripping me to shreds. My response is, fuck you and your feelings. So, you know, it's actually great that we did that. I am very happy with the fact that it triggered a lot of people because I think it's a great way to open up a discussion. And it's a great way to open up a conversation about the different perspective that anxious people have from the avoidant people have. And I do not intend to go and, you know, divide people out there, even though I don't really care. It's more so for the perspective of showing the diversity of thought and showing those different positions. I do not advocate for hate, right? Really, I really do not advocate for anxious to hate avoidance and for avoidance to hate the anxious. I am simply trying to show that there's a huge gap. And if you're sitting on your high horse and you're yelling at me for being wrong and evil, well, I think you suck too. So we can continue doing that, or we can actually try to have a conversation about how to unite those two perspectives. So I'd like to have this podcast be dedicated to a little bit of an argument into an anxious and an avoidant standpoint. And I'll talk from my perspective. You know, I will reenact some of the conversations you and I have had, Adam. I'm going to reenact some of the conversations we've had with, you know, clients and friends on either side. And let's see if we can find some consensus and build some peace here. But I'm not going to do this from the perspective of simping down. We're not going to make this easy. We're not going to make this unnatural. Let's just actually make this a raw conversation.
Andrey, one thing that we need to talk about from that last episode, quite frankly, is a lot of the women in the audience, a lot of the anxiously attached women in the audience, even securely attached women in the audience, they, and rightly so, I think, take umbrage with, even umbrage isn't the right word, they hate, they flat out hated hearing many of the things that they've heard, the stonewalling, the lack of care in relationships that they've heard from partners when they've honestly tried their best. They hated hearing that come out of your mouth. And I know that sometimes things come out when we are in the heat of a moment. Sometimes things come out and just very honestly. So what I would like for us to do today is dissect relationship pieces like this in a way that brings people together rather than simply saying, okay, look, screw all of your feelings. Screw your feelings. I don't care. It's going to be this way or else, because that's what a lot of the women at home are used to hearing in their home.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, in many conversations, the conversation starts with, I hate you. And if you come to me and you tell me I hate you, then I can say, you know what, kind of screw your feelings, right? Because you're not being constructive. You're not being productive. You're actually not starting a conversation. All you're doing is you're yelling at me that I'm being wrong for not loving you enough.
So a lot of the comments from the people in our audience, a lot of the women here have said the number one thing they hate and the number one thing they're most concerned about and trying to fix, right, is my husband feels attacked every time I bring my feelings to him. And they keep hearing this one phrase. And I know I've heard you say this phrase before, right? And you can say it, you can look into the camera and say it again. Your feelings are not my problem.
Your feelings are not my problem.
This is what many of the women at home are dealing with. If ladies, if you've heard this, please drop that in the comments right now. I can slap Andrey across the face for you. But Andrey, that's what many of them are hearing.
$1,000, you can pay Adam to slap me across the face.
Right. Yeah. There we go.
Guys, let's raise some money.
But But when the women come to their husband or the boyfriend and they say, here's this problem, I would like us to fix it. Their husband hears exactly like that, what you just said. I'm being attacked. You hate me.
Oh, yeah. And then, what I love about this part, and I hate about it personally, is that now that we are in entirely separate narrative, right? So let's reconstruct what I said. I said, if we are in a relationship, right, and you are trying to make your feelings my problem without actually having established that level of trust and that connection, and we're just not there yet. We're not at the stage where, we have built that relationship and you're trying to blame me for how I've made you feel, even though we may have just started, getting to know each other. We're not potentially even dating, and you're just trying to tear me out of my life and shove me into yours in a way that is not genuine or not fair. I can say, sorry, I am not ready for this. Your feelings are not my problem.
Okay, so now,
however,
hold on. No. Let's define this, okay? Because sometimes there's guys who are 8 years into a relationship and they'll say, we're not at a place where I can deal with your feelings. I shouldn't have to. It's only been 8 years and we're only technically dating, but we're not even boyfriend, girlfriend. It's been 8 years, lady. Right? So what's the definition for that line for you?
The definition for the line for building trust is a question of responsibility. Be very clear with your intentions. I did not date for a very long time because I knew that it was not the right thing. I had no interest in playing that game. I had some woman who came and said, I want to date you. I said, I don't. Right? And that was it. Okay. And it didn't work. And then there were some things I walked away from, and that was it. And when I met the person I wanted to be with, I was very specific. And I said, this is what I intend to do. This is what I would like to offer. This is the conversations I would like to have. And as soon as you own up and you put that forward, yes, that becomes your responsibility. Now you actually have to own up to your words and live that in that connection. But until that conversation happens, it's not fair to come and demand something of somebody, because in a similar way, that's a kind of a double standard for dating in a way, where if the girl likes you, you owe her. But if you like the girl, then she, how dare you approach her? Like, that's not true. That's not fair.
No, and I agree. There needs to be a mutually agreed upon arrangement of this is where we're at and this is what we're going to do. I think that's just as much on the women to make sure that that's the case.
Yes.
But what many of these women are out there experiencing, because I work with them in my coaching, I work with them in my mentorship community. Actually, more women come into my mentorship community than anything because they want that direct twice a week with me because they want to dissect these pieces. They're like, Adam, my husband said this today. What the hell?
Well, then what's the backstory? Okay, let's talk about this. Okay, well, I married this guy and I loved him and he was an asshole to me this whole time and he is evil and I'm awesome. That is not the narrative that gets you anywhere. And this is why I'm reacting the way I am to these comments, right? Because these people are coming out and attacking me on YouTube and, everywhere else. They're saying, I hate this guy. You know nothing about me. You know nothing about me, my story, what I'm trying to do, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. And that's exactly the issue, that you people are the issue. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to play the moral judgment card and say, I have decided from watching 10 minutes of you that I can tell you in public that you suck. And this is the part where I say I don't particularly care because I know that relationship has not been established. So if you're in a position with your husband where you absolutely despise what he's doing and he's shutting down your feelings, then maybe first disaggregate the way you guys got there, and then you can start talking about who's at fault of what. And then maybe you might realize that you might have contributed much more to that problem than you want to admit on the first try.
Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to thank you. Thank you for following me and the I Wish You Knew podcast. Thank you for your support. And most importantly, thank you for showing up for yourself. It means the world to have you in this community. Now, if you're struggling with an avoidant partner, and if it feels like you're stuck in a cycle that never ends, I get it. You want deeper intimacy, but they keep shutting down. It's a frustrating cycle, but you don't have to stay stuck in it forever. You deserve love that's secure and steady. And your partner does too. But it takes the right tools and skills to get there and to make it happen. That's why I'm running an October flash sale this week only. You can get 35% off either of my top courses, How to Love an Avoidant Man or the Attachment Bootcamp. Or you can go big and grab both of them at 50% off. Buy one, get one free. Plus, if you're ready for personal coaching, you'll get 15% off from my new coaches and 10% off my own private coaching sessions. This is your chance to transform your relationship and make a real lasting change. Take advantage of this flash sale before it's gone. Links in the description, or visit me at adamlanesmith.com. Now, here's what's fascinating. We began the conversation by you saying people come to me and say, I hate you. And we talked about feeling attacked. The way that you then separated that was, well, their feelings aren't my problem because we don't have enough of a relationship for me to deal with their feelings. Let's talk about the relationships where you do have a relationship with the person, okay? Let's take the assumption that both have done their ethical responsibility as mature adults. And I'm looking out there right now. Have conversations. Do not settle for situationships. Make sure you have a clearly defined relationship of expectations, okay? Number one. Good for avoidant men? Have I covered your side? Perfect.
Okay.
Good. Ladies, do that. Men also do that. If that's the piece, right? She's coming to her husband. They've had that conversation, let's assume. What is it that makes avoidant men feel attacked in the beginning of a conversation? Pull that apart for me.
You always, I hated when, you don't, I always.
Ooh, the absolutes.
Absolutes. Again, avoidance really like context. The reason we push back, especially in situationships and relationships, is because, hey, I like you, you like me. Do you want to spend time together? Yes. Great. Hey, maybe you want to engage in some sexual activity, and this is mutual. And, maybe you want to spend time together. Maybe you want to go on vacation together. Are you happy? Yes. And next, you kind of go in this step by step, for trade by trade. And then all of a sudden, this person that you're with goes 10,000 miles ahead and says, why didn't you marry me yet? And you're like, what? Or they go, I hated that you don't love me enough, unless I do this. You go, what are you talking about? Right? You never brought up a problem. Until literally 20 minutes ago, you've been telling me that you're happy. Everything's okay. And then all of a sudden now you are accusing me and telling me that I'm a horrible human and that there's something deeply wrong with me unless I do something that you want. And to me, that's manipulative. And I don't think that being manipulated is very nice. So I have a right, and I have a chance to do so. Well, then I will push back and say, hey, you know what? This isn't right either. And so I say, hey, this isn't right either. You tell me that I'm even worse. And that's a very quick degenerative spiral.
Okay. So what about the cases where, and yes, to be fair, sometimes women lie and cover and obfuscate, and I love that word, and cover everything up until the last moment when they finally say, I'm frustrated enough to do something about it, and then they unload on the man.
Yeah, everything.
It happens. It does happen. But there's also a 1.5 million cases where she has shared concerns, she tries to talk about it, she's maybe too subtle, but she's trying to open up, and then she's dismissed, right? Dismissed again and again and again. And then she comes to the husband and says, hey, we need to talk about this concern. And he says, how effing dare you?
Well, then he's a asshole.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
And there's also a combination in there to say, look, what is an avoidance situation, right? Is you can have a healthy avoidant, a responsible, I think you call them an ethical avoidant, who says simply, hey, I have a limited capacity. I may have some issues I'm working through. I may have a limited ability to give you resources, time, attention, because I'm simply trying to do something. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to provide for, build a future, provide for a family. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to recover. And if all you're doing is you're trying to yank me away from that, you're shooting yourself, me, and our family in the foot, and you're actually asking me to undermine myself in order to satisfy your immediate need. And you don't even want me to do that because you're not attractive to the simp type of guy. And you're actually trying to get me to be a simp. And the answer is no, right? Because I get that. And it's no, we're not playing that game. So you have the ethical type of avoidant that says, I'm simply going to lead you through the stages as I see them. And I'm willing to, first of all, admit the fact that don't have it just right, but also to work with you to the best of my ability at the time being. And I'm asking you for honesty and patience, and I'm going to be giving you in return my absolute best. And if that's not good enough, let me know, and I will work through that with you. Okay. So I think that's the definition of ethical avoidance. So if the guy's doing that and you're still unhappy with him, sorry, you're the source of the problem.
I will say this, because you're one of my dearest friends in the world, and you're also very avoidant. It's both.
Very avoidant,
it's not
or just avoidant?
It depends on the day. Depends on the day. Depends on the circumstance as well. And I love you with all my heart. So what I know is that you are very, very meticulous about defining your relationships with people. You let them know where they are. You let them know what the expectations are. You immediately put up good, proper boundaries when someone expects too much. And then you also give them a pathway toward building toward, you want this from me, here's what that would have to look like, and here's how we could get there. You've done that, which is excellent, right? That's why I've spent 3 years coaching you. But that's why. But many of the women who are out there right now, ladies, tell me in the comments if we're right or wrong, many of the women out there do not have a man making that clarity for them. She might be uncertain, she might not be clear, and she comes to him with an idea, with a question, with a desire, a need. Hopefully she's not using absolutes, she better not be. But she's coming to him with that, and he's not providing that clear roadmap forward. He's running away from it. He's dodging that. What would you say to those men out there through your growth as an avoidant man? What advice might you give to those men who are hesitant? They're unsure how to guide her. They're unsure how to make those things clear. What have you done to try to make that clear?
To a man, what is this term for this? We have ethical avoidant and
Manipulative
avoidant. To a man who is manipulative avoidant, I can safely say that you're some of the worst pieces of shit that walk this earth. And very simply, I'm saying that because what you're trying to do is you're actually trying to play both sides. You know, you're trying to be the victim in your own story and the hero in your own story. And you're locked inside your own head, and there's nothing but misery there. Because you're using whatever circumstance got you there. Oh, I had a horrible childhood. Oh, my, ex-girlfriend or ex-wife me over, or this and this happened in my life, and then you're using that as an excuse to recreate that same environment, to justify your existence and justify you hurting people over and over and over again, right? And the first thing you got to do is cut it out and stop and ask yourself two very simple questions. What am I doing, and why am I doing that? Right? What am I doing right now by telling my girlfriend that I cannot process her feelings? I am shutting her down because I am not able to have this conversation because potentially I am, completely exhausted from work, right? Why am I doing this? Is because I don't think I can do my best right now. And if you can answer that honestly to yourself, your next response needs to be an absolute respect of that. And you can say, "Hun, you have flagged an issue for me. I think you're being a little bit combative. I hear that you're upset. I hear that you're sad. I cannot help you right now, but I can help you in an hour after I had a chance to cool down and take a break and think about what you've said. So let's reconvene then, and I promise to you I will give you my best and listen to you then and there." That is a great step, and I think a woman would respect and understand that if she has a value in actually maintaining and repairing that connection.
Yeah.
But if you say, "How dare you have come to me when you should have seen how hard I worked for you, and you are doing this because you don't appreciate me, and I am now acting this way to punish you and teach you how to respect me better." Now that is toxic.
Absolutely. That's destructive. One thing you said that was in there that I loved is the respect component and then listening to her feelings. What, as an avoidant man, what has been the biggest piece, the most surprising piece about female feelings for you? Because when I met you, you were not dismissive of female feelings. You were mostly confused by them. I remember. And you have a daughter.
Still am.
Yeah, we all are. But you're a fantastic father. You care for your daughter. It's wonderful. We were at dinner the other day. She's delightful. I know that you care deeply for her feelings, and I know that you've also learned a lot about those feelings, a tremendous amount, probably more than most men understand about female feelings. What has been the difference for you? What has made you care about a woman's feelings? Why tactically has that mattered? As an avoidant man who is very risk assessing, very measurable, very logical, what has made female feelings make sense to you?
So the presence of the feminine in your life is one of the things that makes it worthwhile. There's a few key experiences that build us as humans, and you cannot be a full human without it. It is to believe in God in some way or another, because that is a relationship with self, to have children, which is a relationship with the future, right? And to fall in love, which is a relationship with the present, where you can actually exist and it can fulfill you, it can build you up, it can develop you, it can motivate you, and it can really give you purpose. Without having a female in your life, we are purposeless. Men who are avoidant are trying to build a space. That space was taken away from them or never provided to them by life circumstance, especially people coming out from, poverty or, difficult circumstance in terms of life. They're not ready to take responsibility for a female in their life. And they may be building that, and they're maybe building themselves, right? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a space, a structure that they can then invite somebody else into. And the thing that has really always been so special to me about the female emotions is that when they are in their feminine energy, if they are actually proper and they're balanced and they're with good intentions and around a good moral compass, they are the most intense, beautiful, overwhelmingly interesting, and motivational entities that can even exist. And men feel very small in comparison to this because everything is very compartmentalized. And the beauty and complexity of such emotions is very difficult for us to understand and to trust to experience. So especially if you're avoiding the first stages, when you have a woman come into your life and you actually welcome her in and she respects the rules of your house, because that is what you bring her into. You bring into the house of your soul, of yourself, and she respects those rules and she shows that she is not going to be careless with you and she's not going to be careless with herself, and your values and your principles align, then the sense of gratitude, relief, appreciation, and wonder you're filled with is absolutely crippling. That is actually a big challenge that avoidance will face, that they will encounter that feeling and they'll run away from that because it's too much. But sorry, bro, you're going to have to work through that, or you're not getting to the other end.
This is the number one change when couples come into my coaching practice that helps avoidant men really value the woman in their life and then brings peace to them, is identifying that her feelings are a measurement on the relationship, okay? Imagine, guys, that you're driving a car, okay? You're driving a beautiful car, and there's a woman in the seat beside you. Her job is to keep her eye on the gauges, measure everything in the car, make sure the car is functioning, okay? You're driving along. You're in the passenger seat, and the car starts kind of like shaking a little bit. And you hear the woman in the seat say, well, all the lights just popped on. Your check engine light's on. The temperature gauge is way up. This is going on. These are pieces. You go, nope, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I've driven cars like this. Sometimes they just shake. And she's okay when she quiets down for a little while. And then you keep driving and the rattling gets worse. You hear a thump. Something falls off the car, kind of scrapes and goes. And she says, well, another light just clicked on. You said, nope, we're fine. Don't worry about it. Car is fine. I've had pieces call off.
I'm driving.
That was an extra part of the car. We didn't need that one anyway, okay? Now you're driving. You're continuing to drive. Now there's smoke coming out of the hood a little bit. And she goes, well, there's smoke. And the temperature gauge. You go, nope. Smoke is normal in some cars, sweetheart. This is a deluxe version. It comes with that smoke, okay? And then you continue driving. Now flames are coming, and it's hot, and the wheels are one tire pops. And she says, sweetheart, it's really nope. I don't even want to hear from you anymore, lady. Come on, shut up. You are always this way. Okay. Eventually, she does not trust you to continue driving the car. Her feelings are the measurements on the car. Her job is to measure that relationship. Now, ladies out there, I know the other thing that many of you have asked is why, as an anxious woman, do I, the attachment specialist, say that you have to take the first steps in a relationship? Because it is. You must. You must take the first steps into your relationship.
Fair? I'm actually kind of curious. So to me, I've been through this cycle a few times, right? And I understand that there is a step in dating, and there's kind of a step of where you, as a man, invite a woman into your life. And only you as a man can do that, right? So one thing that I'm actually kind of curious to understand from the other side, why is it that the anxious woman has to all of a sudden now go and, initiate these conversations from a psychologist's point of view?
Well, so let's imagine you're driving in that car, okay? And everything feels normal, and the car is completely peaceful and calm. And then all of a sudden, the woman in the passenger seat says, we're all going to die. The car is on fire. And you look, and the gauges are normal. Everything's calm. And she's like really convinced the car is on fire. So you pull over, you stop, you check under the hood. Everything's normal. And she goes, oh, okay, well, sorry. And you get back in the car. And this happens 10 times in a row on one trip. You're just trying to take her out to dinner, and she's screaming her head off every 5 seconds that the car is about to explode. This light's on, that light's on. None of them are on. Okay, this is an avoidant man in a car with an anxious woman. screaming about how everything is wrong. She is saying, you don't love me. I think you're falling out of love with me. I don't feel cared for. Something's wrong, and it's not. Nothing is wrong because her sensors are overtuned. She is tuned to think that disaster is coming. An anxiously attached partner is designed to believe that they are going to fall apart and the relationship will die. It's something called emotional impermanence. Okay, you had a daughter. Do you remember when she was very, very little? Object impermanence, right? The cup is gone. The cup does no longer exist, right? Oh no, the cup is still there, right? And they learn that the item is still there even when they can't see it. Emotional impermanence is when you don't see their feelings for you. So you believe their feelings are now dying. Unless you have proof of their feelings in front of you, their love for you is dying. This is emotional impermanence, okay? This is a huge learning piece for most anxiously attached people because they say, wow, that's what I feel. So if you're feeling that at home, good, this is a good piece. Emotional impermanence is your alarm screaming that the car is about to explode when the car is perfectly fine. And if you do that too many times to an avoidant person, he stops caring about your feelings because he thinks you're a lunatic. Right or wrong?
You know what also makes people lunatics is when you're driving in your car, taking it to the shop, having a great time, and this red light, this random chick gets in to your car without permission and starts being like, oh my God, you're finally here. It's like, what? Who the hell are you?
This is our car now, right?
Yeah, this is our car. Where are we going for a day? It's like, who are you, lady? Why are you here? I'm going to say this one thing, and it's probably going to get me a lot of hate online, but girls get attached far too early in relationships without having the right conversations. Honestly, this is part of the thing that kind of starts the anxious avoidant dance, really, is that especially, look, if you're dating and you're finding a guy who has avoidant tendencies, he's probably working really hard on something. He's probably going to the gym. He's probably, reading self-help books. He's probably obsessed with something that's, internally focused. And you see that and you find that as attractive. Those are good qualities to have in a man because at least he's taking that something seriously. Then you got to understand that discipline and that intent also comes with some rules, right? We cannot be two things at once. We cannot be super focused and super motivated and super driven and also super cuddly and available to flip over and spend the life in La La Land with you, never having to go to work. Now, those things are opposites.
Did you know that everything you just said is wrong?
No, I did not know that.
No, here's why. Here's why. So the research on this is fascinating. Women, healthy, securely attached women, fall in love slower and fall out of love faster. Healthy, securely attached men fall in love faster and fall out of love slower. That's what biology has designed us to do. So a securely attached woman, everything you just described, actually women are highly pragmatic when they are securely attached. When they're insecurely attached and they are craving that connection, anxiously attached women, they fly into the relationship and they look for butterflies, which is the other person making them feel loved right up front. Those are the women that fall in love way too fast and jump into your car when you haven't invited them in.
Exactly. But that's my point, right? If you're one of the women who has this tendency to being anxious, right, what usually happens? You find a guy, he's got all these good qualities to him. Up front. You start casually dating. You love bomb the hell out of them. You get way too connected. 2 dates in, you're talking babies. You want to, you start leaving stuff at his place. You're trying to jump into bed with them. You're wearing the most provocative low-cut thing. You will fling yourself on top of them and you'll do anything they ask for. And you say, this is the worst part. You say, oh, it's okay. I'm fine with everything that's happening and I don't need anything from you. That's just the way I am. I'm a very giving and loving person. And the avoidant man, if he's a dumbass, is going to say, great, deal. Where do I sign? This sounds too good to be true. She's perfect. She never complains. She never says anything. Everything's always normal. And then they get into this car together, right? And then in 2-3 months, 6 months at best, what's going to happen is that the girl says, I have given you so much. And the guy says, but I thought it was free, right? And then they start getting into this whole thing of well, you owe me and now you need to take care of my emotions. And, when are we going to have a family? And the guy's like, we never had the conversation that you're the one. I thought we were just hanging out, man.
Now, all the women at home are furious right now, I believe, because everything you just described is exactly the opposite of what they think has been happening. Because that's from the avoidant person's perspective. And I'm 100% with you. I produced a series of 5 videos on my YouTube channel 6 months back about how anxiously attached women are toxic for avoidant men, specifically from the viewpoint of avoidant men. And it has got me more hate than anything I have ever created in my life. I did 2.5 years of pro-anxious attachment. This is what he's doing to you. And those 5 videos, so many women walked away like, Adam, you are a human garbage pile.
Yeah,
for
and
this.
for context. Okay,
For context,
guys,
yeah.
For context, let's make something clear. For everybody who is giving me shit right now and is writing like horrible, like, comments, just pause, take your fingers off the keyboard and pause this for a second. So I was an avoidant and I started working with Adam. Together with Adam, we have built and produced all of the content that has been helping you the whole time, right? And we have been on your side, and we've been trying to say, hey, what is happening when those asshole guys abuse you is not okay.
Correct.
However, now we've gotten to the stage where it's time for us to turn back to you and say, and now, what have you contributed to that problem? And that's why we have this conversation, right? You may think I'm an asshole, but not always am I this asshole. And I'm not usually like this because we actually don't have to have this conversation at all. Right. If you are able to develop these skills to detect, first of all, the absolute psychos. Do not go next to people who are manipulative avoidant. They're terrible for you, right? It is for you to be able to eliminate those toxic people from your life, stop your toxic behaviors, and now show up into the nice middle segment and say, okay, what can I work with?
Yes.
Right? Because guess what? You're not going to find Mr. Right because they don't exist. And if you're super anxious and you haven't taken care of yourself, they're not going to go for you until you fix yourself.
You're going to find Mr. Right now or Mr. Right all the time is who you're going to find until you perfect it. I do put, and I do as a man, I put tremendous pressure on men specifically to clarify in these relationships because many of these anxiously attached women, the reason I don't go at them and blame them is because many of them they don't, it's not that they don't know better. Many of them feel stuck in this cycle and they only understand relationship dynamics from I must give and give and give and only then am I allowed to ask. They come at it that way and I don't agree with it and I know it's toxic and it's unacceptable. So I've classified with anxiously attached people even. So we have the ethical avoidant and manipulative avoidant as I'm updating, as you know, I'm updating attachment theory. Ethical avoidant and manipulative avoidant.
And it makes so much sense, right? Because it finally gives you the framework to start saying what is an acceptable behavior that can be fixed over time versus what is an unacceptable behavior.
So on the other side, we have the anxious attachment spectrum, okay? We have nurturing anxious to toxic anxious, okay? Toxic anxious is the secretive, laying everything out in advance. Like you said, most anxiously attached women don't buy new lingerie, put it on, leap on top of you, or like claw you to death like a tiger and then say, now you owe me. That's not most anxious women. Most anxious women won't do that. The ones who do that are the ones who lay out everything that you owe them, and then they are resentful that you haven't magically figured out what it is they want in return, and they start punishing you for it because you haven't given them what they secretly wanted. That's the toxic version of it.
Yep. And, if you are in the toxics, again, stop because if you're full of rage right now and you have something to say and you think that we have disrespected you and we need to be punished, Adam, me, both of us, perfect. Take that thought and catch that feeling and realize that your desire to punish has probably some truth to the matter that you're actually being exposed to, that there's something in your behaviors that you're probably doing that is making you so angry that you actually want to hurt people. As soon as you want to hurt somebody, you're the problem.
Now, most anxious women are not that at all. Most anxious women do look at themselves and say, what am I contributing? They do that actually too much. And that's anxious attachment. What am I doing? It's my fault, my fault, my fault, my fault. So they put up with abuse and bad behavior for 15, 20 years, which is where avoidant men need to step up to the plate and say, look, here is what I'm willing to offer. Anxious women need to step up to the plate and say, here is what I'm needing and expecting.
Yes.
It must be both. We can't just go at avoidant men and say, you have to be good, be good, be good, be good. We can't just do that. We also have to call in women and say, you must be clear and you must ask. Women have to state the price, quote unquote. Men have to ask the price. And then men have to offer the price on their side and the woman has to ask that price. We have to have those clear conversations. This is what I want. How can we get there? Do you also want that?
Oh, communication is important.
This is why I tell people at the end of a first date, you must If you want to commit a relationship, you must come in and say, hey, just so we're on the same page, I want a committed relationship. I don't have to get married tomorrow, but I do want that in the future. Is that also what you want? If so, fantastic. We can have a second date. That's how you go in for the second date ask, by the way. But then you say, if not, that's fine. We'll finish our dinner, we'll high five, and we'll go our separate ways. You
high fives.
You have to do this. Wow. You have to be clear about what you want on that first date, or it is all wasted.
Yeah. Let's be honest about something. All of this is fantastic. If you watched Adam for years, if you've gotten his coaching, if you've taken his courses, you're coming in, you're equipped, you can actually have a normal relationship. I mean, it's taking me 2 years of Adam coaching before I could have a normal relationship and not run face first into 90% of the problems I already had. So God bless you for that, and thank you. But at the same time, for many people, it's too late. I'll be honest with you. For many people, they have already started or in a relationship, be it for 5 months or 5 years or 15 years, where they've been living this way.
Isn't it so funny that an avoidant man would say, for some people it's too late because they're already in a relationship?
Touché. But what I'm trying to say here is this. It's too late for you to restart. You can't, just say, hey, hon, 15 years of our relationship didn't happen. Go here, have this bottle of vodka. I'll have one too, and we'll, forget everything ever existed. Let's start again. You have to realize this. Once you're already in this cycle, I actually think that is both people's responsibility as opposed to just the anxious woman to start doing the work. And this is where I actually agree with you, audience, where it is absolutely not fair for you to have to go to start it. I think it's definitely both people's responsibility to do the work. Now, here's one thing you must realize. The avoidant man has established a system, and until the smoke is going out the hood and the woman is screaming next to him, he's not going to listen because we are aware there's a problem. We are actually aware that it is a two-sided problem, and we have decided that we're now driving to the nearest repair shop and we're not stopping because if we stop, we think the car's going to explode, and we're just focused.
I know you have a wonderful girlfriend now, and she's delightful. I've met her. I know you have a good car that is not rattling, not smoking, not on fire. You have a wonderful car that's working perfectly. Prior to that car, had you ever been in cars before that didn't rattle, didn't smoke, didn't almost explode? Had you ever driven a good, proper car before?
Every car I've ever driven like that has always exploded, and it was a question of either exploding unexpectedly, which was the most terrifying thing. That's the thing that makes me careful now, right? Or it just doesn't drive.
So could we say that part of the problem is that anxiously attached women are sitting in the passenger seat trying to call out legitimate problems, and that avoidant men are driving a death trap? They are used to every car being a death trap, and they're waiting for the last 2% before they bail out and the fiery explosion happens 10 feet down the road. Is that part of the problem? Are you just so used to driving death traps that a woman trying to tell you don't drive a death trap is confusing to you?
No, because I don't think it's entirely true. What it really is a question is men build systems, right?
Sure.
We have built a system based on the best we can do in this environment, right? So if we are in a relationship, it's because we believe this is the best we can do, but also we realize, we're kind of hyper-realistic, that it's not going to be perfect, and we're not going to be able to be perfect. And, just as I said at the beginning of this podcast, we're talking about what it's like to have somebody come to you and demand things from you, and you just I can't provide. Not right now, not at this time, not to the level I wish I could. So I'm going to have to do my best. So if you've been in a relationship for a while and the man has set up the system that has kept you safe, provided for, your kids have a place to sleep, you guys have all food to eat, he has said, I have provided my best at this point, and I don't know where to go from here. So this is a very, very important part, that if you're an anxious avoidant relationship, your man absolutely must admit, hun, I've done my best. I've reached my max. I don't know where to go from here. I need help. So if your man is not ready to do that, there's nothing you can do.
So this is This is the only place when avoidant men come to me for coaching, because they come in by the hundreds. Ladies out there, avoidant men are trying to get better. They just don't know how. So they come into me for coaching, and the only time that avoidant men ever come to me for coaching, they don't come when they think everything's fine. They don't come when they have no hope. They don't come when they think everything's just normal and they say everything is misery, right? You're very Russian. They don't come in very, very Russian misery. Everything is horrible all the time. That's normal. Misery is normal, right? They don't come in at that point. They come in when they say, something's missing. I'm missing
wrong.
something, right? What am I, my wife keeps trying to talk to me about this thing called emotional intimacy. What is that? What is she trying to tell me? Why am I not happy, right? Why does nothing last? Why? It does for other people. Why not me? That's the question that brings avoidant men in. What am I missing? Right?
What's missing? Avoidant men are deeply negligent of a very important part of themselves, which is specifically having to do with serotonin and oxytocin and actually bonding and connection. If you have spent your last 10 years locked in meeting rooms, offices, airplanes, cars, in work sites, in the gym, in a training facility, in a martial arts dojo, whatever, building your body, building your finances, building yourself, you have done so at the expense of your ability to process and understand emotions. You do not know how to feel happy. You don't even understand what safety feels like. You're probably in a dopamine cycle, and you're just probably flooding cortisol because you drink too much coffee and, hopefully nothing else.
Oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, cortisol. Sounds familiar. Did you learn that from somebody?
Yeah, it's almost like you talk about that. Mm-hmm. And you have to understand that while you may be excellent at, football or finance or, plumbing, you are an absolute novice, and you're actually probably worse than that at these emotional subjects. So when your wife or your girlfriend comes to you, and this is actually why it's so important for women to understand this challenge, and she starts talking to you, chances are she is at a much higher level in that than
area.
You can even comprehend.
In that area, yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And this is why there's a huge gap, right? This is one of the reasons that women get so frustrated and they're just so, so bewildered and exhausted by everybody, right? Is that they try to speak in things that make sense to them in feminine language, and language they've processed, developed for 25, 30 years as young girls, as young women, as women communicating with each other at this heightened level of emotional intelligence. And then you have this hairy ape that is just sitting there basically sucking its toe, and you're trying to deliver Newtonian physics to it, and then you get angry at it. Well, what the hell do you expect? So we have to have a recognition that the ape has to recognize it's an ape, and the person who is trying to talk to that ape in elevated language is being stupid because they're expecting things that can't happen.
So let's walk through this really quick. I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions. I want really short answers to this. Help the avoidant men who are watching us, most likely right now, because a lot of them secretly do, because they're spying on the enemy camp to understand what's happening. As an avoidant man, have you ever tried to help someone who is in financial difficulty by explaining basic finances to them?
Yes.
Okay. When you did that, have you had people that didn't listen to you and thought it was dumb and told you were wrong?
Yes.
Did they then go on and walk into disaster and then you felt bad for them a little bit? Maybe even a little. Okay. Did you then maybe try to explain a little bit more to them now that they had painful experience?
Yes.
Did they then continue to not listen to you and say that you were stupid?
Usually.
This is the experience of a woman trying to explain emotional intimacy to an avoidant man right here. That is what she has felt as she's watched you go through this and experience this. Now, I know you are an educated. We've taught you. We've taken the bear and taught the bear to dance. You're an educated avoidant man, and you've done phenomenally well. By the way, I'm very proud of you, my friend.
Thank you.
I'll hug you afterward, not during the show.
Yeah,
so
please don't.
After, before to now, life quality, joy, pleasure, fulfillment level. What level fulfillment were you at before? What percentage, and what has emotional intimacy brought you to?
Now, I know where you're going with this, but this is actually where I'm going to put a little bit of a handbrake on and say, well, actually, if you use this example, and if I was your friend, and I was coaching you on finance, and you refused my advice, and you walked into it, and then you came back and you say, well, why did this happen? And I explained it a second time. And you tell me I'm stupid, and you go and do it again, you come back a third time. If I go in and I start telling, well, I told you so, and look, you don't listen to me because you're an idiot, it does not pass the what are you doing and why test. Because what I'm doing then is I'm actually exerting power over you, and I'm trying to feel better about myself by I'm trying to repeat what didn't work. If I taught you for 3 times and you still keep repeating the mistake, I'm a bad teacher. That's not fair. Like, what I'm doing isn't working. I actually, at that point, what I do is say, hey, I'm trying to show you a way how to live a financially plentiful life. And you're not listening to me and you're not hearing me. How is that working out for you? What are you looking to accomplish? And how can I best support you in doing that? If only you as the teacher, you as the anxious woman could do that and allow your superpowers to be actually utilized in a way that's comprehensible and practical, you will be having entirely different conversation. Instead, you just sit there and say, you're so dumb, you're so emotionally unavailable, I hate you, you suck. Neat.
Now, this is a fascinating piece that I've actually learned from you, as you know. I learned that piece by working with you, by understanding exactly how avoidant men have thought. And you and I together, people don't know this, but you and I together built the How to Love an Avoidant Man video course to show women how to understand that language component right there. Because if you speak to an avoidant man with your feelings or with anger or resentment, that's exactly what happens. Mm-hmm. So ladies out there, we have that course available. Please check it out. It's linked in the description. But Andrey, what has been your quality of life improvement for the guys that are listening? How much has emotional connection changed your life? Percentage-wise of fulfillment, of happiness, of lack of friction. What's been the increase for you?
There's a before and an after. It's entirely a different ball game. And the different ball game is in what sense? There isn't a quantitative increase. A quantitative increase is it says, well, I am now 423% happier than I was.
You heard it, 423%.
No, wrong. What I'm trying to say is you do not have the capability to understand happiness until you have the full spectrum. It's like going to an art museum if you cannot see the colors blue, red, orange, green, and yellow. Good luck walking through that art museum, right? So you say, hey, how much more did you enjoy the art museum when you were limited, to 20% of your vision versus 100% of your vision? It's entirely a different experience. There are 2 different places in which you survive and live, right? That's why it's actually difficult to comprehend. In fact, as you transition from avoidant to secure attachment, there's a very interesting step that happens, which is a absolute sense of terror and rejection. And the first thing you want to do when you wake up every morning is run. And you will have to work through 2 or 3 months of that, where you absolutely will despise everything about you, the situation, everything else, and everything in your systemic, scale of instruments and, panel will be literally flashing red saying, this does not work, danger, 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 and there'll be no smoke coming out.
Did you have that experience when you were first connecting with your girlfriend, your current girlfriend?
Right.
Did you?
Yeah, and then you have to wait, and it ends.
Did you express any of that to her while that was happening?
No, because it's my internal problem, and I need to work with my internal solution. And it's not somebody's fault.
This is so avoidant it hurts. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not her fault that I have to go through
No,
that shit.
it's not her fault.
So why does she have to deal with it?
So when you wake up in a cold sweat and your eye is twitching and you're like twitching and soaking the bed sheets with your stress level and you're so rigid you can hardly walk, and she says, how are you doing? And you say, I'm fine. Right?
Well, you don't say I'm fine. That's a lie.
Well, what did you say? Did you talk to her about that component?
No.
Your love feels terrifying. Did you say that to her?
That's ridiculous. What is this, a movie? No, what you say is, hey, it's so far, I think we're on the right track. We're working through things. I'm very happy with how things are progressing, and I'm working on getting better. And you go to the gym, you take cold plunges, you if you're religious, you pray, and you just simply understand that you have a physical response, a physiological response to an emotional state that you're not used to, right? It's called growing up.
But did you ever at any point express to her that you were even having that response on the inside? Did she know that about you?
It's probably better to ask her.
Okay, well, if you had held back, what would have been your reason for holding back on sharing that?
No, 100% I hold back. And here's the thing, like as a man, you are actually responsible for creating a comfortable and loving atmosphere, right? I do not share all of my, say, business, financial, personal troubles with my girlfriend because I'm trying to create an environment where she feels safe and protected. I'm very good at building systems. I'm building a system where she's safe, protected, just as I do with my child, as I will with my entire family.
Okay.
Right? And here's the most important thing, right? Anxious women will go after avoidant men because of all of the stuff they're not providing. Well, I'm going to say this. Anxious woman, can you only imagine all the shit you're not experiencing because we're taking care of it? Because maybe you're not experiencing, a fat abusive slob. You're not experiencing financial difficulty. You're not experiencing, many risks and challenges because we're trying to protect and guide you and guard you. And that is our core focus.
Now, I don't disagree to that component, but I will also say this. At some point, you do need to share the context of what's happening. Do you remember the first car ride you and I ever took together?
I do.
Do you remember driving?
Yep.
Yep. Do you remember the fact that I was sitting there in the passenger seat looking at you like this every 3 seconds because your eyelid was twitching so hard it was like a machine gun?
My eyes dry out in cold
Hey,
clouds,
that was what you said at the time. My eye is just dry. Uh-huh. Do you remember the overwhelming compulsive twitch of that eye even after you put eye drops in it?
Well, I know why that happened in retrospect. Right? Because I actually showed up having just gone through a divorce.
Yes.
And I stayed with your family and I walked into the loving, beautiful atmosphere and I 1,000% shut down.
I remember all my kids dogpiled on you. They hugged you. They called you uncle. They were so happy. My wife gave you a big hug. And that was when your eye twitch started. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And then we were driving and your eye was twitching. I was like, are you good? You're like, yeah, it's just dry. Like Batman voice, it's just dry. And I was like, okay. And like 5 minutes later, I felt like the woman in the relationship. So I was like, are you sure you're okay? And you're like, yeah. And I remember for like an hour of that car ride, I was like, we're going to die. As I was sitting there, I was like,
first of all, I couldn't drive with one eye.
You were fantastic.
Secondly,
you were a good driver. But
what was I supposed to do?
The whole time my heart was like, we're going to die. And it wasn't.
And did we?
No.
But did you die?
Here was the thing. I was like, okay, he's stressed out and his eye is twitching and he won't acknowledge it. If you had just been like, you know what, I'm a little bit stressed, so my eye's twitching, I would have been, okay, thank God he's acknowledging he's stressed out. Okay, at least we're there. At least we're there. Okay. And I think that's where most anxious women are probably going to come in here to the conversation and say, yes, if he can just give me some brief context, fantastic. That brief context makes you human. It also makes you trustworthy.
Or you can just let me handle it. Okay.
Blind trust. Okay. And now when you drive with me and your eye is twitching, I have blind trust in you. You could be weaving through traffic and I'd be okay.
Well, exactly. Take that experience. I handled it. Maybe it wasn't pretty on the right side. It was a lot better on the left side. But my point being was that it was okay.
Yes.
And if you just trusted me and we got to the end and you did, and we filmed an amazing course.
Yes.
Attachment Boot Camp was filmed that day.
Yes.
And everything worked out. And as I said, I had it and I had it. What's the problem?
You have been phenomenal. There has not, I will say, there has not been a problem. It was really just the initial moments of absolute blood-curdling terror that we were going to die.
That's why I said, I don't give a fuck about your feelings. When I'm driving, my eye twitching, we need to film a course, and there's other things to do. Sometimes, I'm sorry, hey, I have a limited capacity, and if I had to pull over and say, Adam, I'm going to hold your hand, and I'm going to explain the emotional difficulty I have, because I haven't had time to process that yet.
Now, I will also say this. You have come back and a couple months later, I did say, hey, do you remember that time your eye was twitching? And you were like, oh, yeah. I realized, and you said, I realized, yeah, that was because I was detoxing from all these other things, and then the love and connection, it really was different for me. So I was really trying to shift.
Yeah.
That was also a piece of me trusting you, was you coming back with that clarity and being able to say, okay, here's actually what happened. And you told me after the fact. That really built my trust in you. So that's something that men need to be doing with women is the after report. Like, here's what I've realized.
Yeah.
Here's some clarity. Because then she's not like, oh no, he is still redlining with no awareness.
And the thing that women do, and I'm really glad you didn't do that, and this is something that absolutely sets avoidant men off. We're like, hey, I have my hands full. There's 50,000 life circumstances of which I'm shielding you from because I love and respect you. I have systems to build on it. And maybe I'm not 100% on the outside, but I got this. And they sit there and go, what are you telling me? You need to tell me right now. Yeah. You don't love me, do you? And it's like, holy cow. Just save the conversation for tomorrow. Just let's finish our trip. I just need a minute. You don't need to instantly try to get everything out of me this instant. give me a breathing room, and wait.
And that right there is why anxious women have to begin the process. They don't have to begin the process by giving the man everything. This is what women unfortunately misunderstand when I say. Maybe I should be clearer. They don't have to do everything and give everything and start everything and be selfless. What anxiously attached women have to do is begin the process by fixing their own insecurity that causes them to be so amped up that they have to dig those facts out of you with a knife before they can even begin trusting you. There has to be some secure ability to calm your own nervous system so that the avoidant man can work with you. If you don't, he cannot work with you. This is why I say anxious women must begin, not even for his own sake, but for your sake. Soothe your nervous system. Learn to become a bit more secure so that your anxiety is not in control. You are in control. Master yourself so that he can work with you instead of working with your anxiety.
And I really like that because it's not that we don't want to. It's because we sometimes can't. Because on one side, we have this overload of the world. And you know what? I'm sorry. I don't control life. Some days are just hard. And I didn't expect that. I didn't get enough sleep. Maybe I had, 2 cups of coffee too many. And now I'm a little amped. And, I'll take responsibility for that. I get it. But just give me a second. Okay? And that's what I mean. It's like, I will keep you safe. I will keep you protected. I will keep you taken care of. I'm not blowing my gasket at you. I'm not, involving you in my problems. I'm trying to be, to the best of my ability, honorable and respectable and respectful of you. And I'm doing that very much by suppressing my own feelings of fear and anxiety and worry and whatnot. And I just need you to lay aside your feelings for a little bit in a tiny way so I can provide for you. So when I say, your feelings, it doesn't mean your feelings. It literally means there's a time and place for everything, okay? And you need to trust me to guide you to a place where we can both process them safely. Knowing that you're not the one driving, knowing that you do not see what is coming around the corner because you yourself have given me that responsibility. And this is the part that I really hate. Women go, oh, you drive, and then they keep taking the wheel. It's like, don't touch that. Either you're the driver or I'm the driver. And you cannot have it both ways, Like really, no. Like there's boundaries, right? So if you have trusted me to take care of you and you have brought me into your life and I've brought you into mine, we've made the arrangement, you cannot sit there and criticize and question me all the time because you have feelings. Learn to manage your emotions like a adult, right? And learn to manage them in adult ways so you can live with an adult, as opposed to simply just sit there and make me the sounding board for all the shit that's happening to you. We're not teenage girls.
And to that connection point, though, once a woman is regulating self, her feelings must be listened to inside the relationship.
Yes, 100%.
If the avoidant man is not listening, she regulates, she brings them, she's measurable and calm and ready to have a conversation, and he's not, then it is 100% his problem.
Yes.
That's the piece, is anxiously attached women at home. If you take that first step and you're regulated, you're calm, you're speaking properly, then you can really look at it and say, is he the problem? Because he almost certainly is at that point if he's refusing to engage.
Right. But here's actually one more piece I got to add. Do that. Realize that as soon as you do that, you will not get an immediate result. Because if your man is stressed or he's hurt or he's upset or he doesn't know how to communicate, he's still that emotional ape, sucking his toe while you're teaching him, higher quantum physics, do not expect an immediate result. Do your thing. If he's not responding, pause. This is one thing that I asked my girlfriend as a condition of, our relationship. I said, if I'm not being somebody who is worthy of your respect, I need you to give me space and feedback and give me the opportunity to become that person. As in, don't leave. Do not engage with my bull. Do not pity me for the love of God, right? Just give me space and say, hey, what you're doing is not good enough for me, and I can't respect you right now. So could you please go and fix that so I can go back to respecting and loving you? And I'll wait right here until you do.
What would you do as an avoidant man? What would you do if a woman, let's say she's self-regulated, she manages her own emotions, okay? She's responsible in that way. What would you do if a woman came to you in a relationship and said, you are not acting in a way that I can respect? What would that do?
I would say, okay, what is happening? Tell me more. What is it that I'm doing that you don't like? What would you like me to do instead? And why would it make you respect me? And then, please, what happened is that, especially if you're a avoidant man, I'm not living on the street, I'm not, sitting there picking my nose all day watching Netflix, playing video games. I have taken significant steps to try to be my best self. So when you take those words to me, you're actually exposing something that I have the opportunity to work towards, because now I have purpose. And now I have a reward for achieving that purpose, because it means, hey, I am watching you and I care for you. You're falling short in a place. I trust that you can get there. And if you can, I will be waiting and I will reward you with love and respect. What more can you give a man to motivate him?
I love that. So let's dive into this respect piece a little bit more. What if a woman came to you? What's the difference if a woman comes to you and says, I feel like you don't love me, versus I feel like you don't respect me? What's the difference there in your response to her?
If a woman comes to me and says, I feel like you don't love me, I kind of go, well, that sucks. I take that as a criticism, right? I take that as a criticism that I don't really know what to fix with. Of course, I'm going to say, okay, well, what can I do differently? But it gives me a very deep and sinking feeling, because I actually feel a little bit betrayed when that happens, because I go, well, actually I do. And you just have kind of, ignored that. And I don't know what to do, because you're not giving me a solution. You're trying to make me chase a goal I don't understand, because your definition of love is much higher elevated than mine, and you're just belittling me in a way because you're not giving me an answer. So you don't love me. It's like, well, and now what? I say, no, I do, and I'm trying to be, we're getting into an argument.
Yeah, and you're going to list all the things you've done for her, the food, the
pathetic.
shelter, the care, right? Everything.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And that's okay, cool, great. Now we're just both kind of disappointed. Versus respect. You say, you don't respect me. That is a red light. And I go, whoa, what have I done to make you feel this way? What have I done to disrespect you? Because now it is an honor-based thing. Actually men have this conversation with themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Healthy men. Because, you get into an argument with a bro, and your bro goes, you know what, bro? I feel like you don't respect me right now. And that is, it's about to come to blows, and we'll figure out who the big dog is, and that's fine. Or it's a checkpoint and say, hey, I have done something dishonorable. Please give me the opportunity to fix it. And we're playing into the strength of a man to repair those relationships, right? Respect means everything to us because that's what we want to be. We want to be respected. That's a very strong move, as opposed to, you don't love me. What's that again?
I love this. So, to all the ladies at home, it sounds like the shift they need to make is speaking in the language of respect. Speaking of the language of respect instead of initially love. Love is not measurable to most men, especially at the beginning of the relationship, but the respect component is.
Let's actually play this the other way. Adam, if I'm your wife and I look at you right now, I've been sat over the dinner table. We put the kids to bed. We're like in bed. Go, Adam, you don't love me.
I would say, what is it that's making you think that?
How does it make you feel, Adam, when I say that?
Confused.
Right.
Yeah.
You're an attachment specialist.
Very confused.
You're supposed to be the best in the world about this. And even you are confused.
My brain immediately goes to all the things that I, as a man, do to show that love, that care, that diligence, the blood, the sweat, the tears, everything that you put in day after day after day. And it's like, if I don't love you, then I don't love any living creature on the face of the planet.
Yeah. And you know how I truly feel, if I can actually express it for a second? That is so manipulative.
Yeah.
Because what it says, look, I have done everything that you have asked me for. Yesterday you told me you loved me and you were happy and everything was fine. And all of a sudden today you dare to take all of that away, to criticize me, to see what more you can get out of me. Fuck you.
That is the first response all of us men experience. That's why you have to set it aside and say, well, okay, what is it that's making you feel that way? And then you have to try to play a guessing game with feelings.
Then you become the adult in the relationship. Usually, you have to take care of the little girl that's hurt on the inside.
Quite honestly, yes, that is the feeling.
Yeah. So when women do that and girls do that, it's like, just understand that you have now stopped being the adult. You are now like my 6-year-old daughter who says, you don't love me, and I have to say, well, what makes you feel this way? And what would you like me to do differently? And can I give you a chocolate now? We can go and watch TV so you feel loved. Like, I'm sorry, grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
You know, find better ways to express your needs and emotions. And then do not sit there, you know, like if you want to be a child, like we have so much compassion as men for women and their needs and their troubles. I have a deep respect for the fact that my woman is going to fail. And that's okay. She can divert to little girl. She can divert to, you know, crying, sobbing mess on her period or off her period. She's going to go through pregnancy. She's going to go through childbirth. There's a lot of experiences I'll never understand. And I will always protect her, love her, respect her, and, you know, defend her. And it's okay for her to be a little girl, right? And that point, at least just be honest. Be like, hey, I'm having a little girl moment. I don't feel like you love me. Can you please hold my hand and hug me?
Yes.
That's it.
I don't feel like is different from you don't love me. You don't love me is a demand and a challenge and a complete negation of you. I feel like you don't love me and I'm having this moment. Can you help me? That is massively different.
Yeah. And it's okay to have I feel like you don't love me moment, but realize that in that instance, you have given up all control and you have therefore given up your right to demand to be treated like an adult. You are a child. Your man will treat you like a child. You have given up your power. You have given up any type of rational conversation, and you're just making a bet that your man is in a good mood and he's ready to put up with your bullshit.
Yeah.
And if he is, he's going to sit there and coddle you and explain and talk and make you feel better, and you'll go through a little girl experience and come back into your womanhood and feel better at the expense of the man.
So this is what, you know, my wife, we've been together for 15 and a half years. We've got 5 kids. I run my business. So it will come as no surprise to anybody. There's definitely times where she comes to me and she needs more love and more affection, right? She doesn't come in and say, you don't love me. And then I have to say, yes, I do. What can I do to help? She would never, ever do that. And she also doesn't come to say, I don't feel like you love me. When she's feeling disconnected from me, we haven't got time. You know, she's having her quote unquote little girl moment, whatever we want to call it there. When she's not feeling cared for in that way, she comes to me and says, I know you care for me, but lately I haven't been feeling it. And here's what would help me. Can we do this?
And that's fantastic.
Yes.
Because that's a beautiful red light moment. And as a man, there's no shame in saying yes to that.
Correct.
Right? You are actually not disrespecting yourself. You're saying, yes, you are right. I have not done enough. Please let me make this better right now.
Yes. And women,
absolute positive.
Women assume that men gripe about their wives behind their backs. Like, no, women like this, men brag behind their wives. But don't I brag to you about my wife, how easy she makes my life?
There's something that, you know, I've told my girlfriend recently, and I basically said, I kind of want you to be like an 8 out of 10 drama. Seriously, because what it does, it's information for me, right? An 8 out of 10 drama means you're not going completely off the wall, but you're not hiding things either, right? You're actually allowing yourself to be in this little girl moment, and that's a building and relationship component, but you're leaving 20% adult, saying, hey, I can't manage my emotions right now, and it would really help me if you could help me manage my emotions. Can we please do it in this way? You can still be 80% little girl, right? But if you're 100% little girl, then like, I'm still learning how to be a dad, right? And if now I have all of a second, a third, a fourth 6-year-old, my brain will melt out of my ears. You know, that's just what the feeling is. So that's why we rely on that. Now, that's not to say that guys don't have those moments either, because sometimes I have little boy moments. You know, there's days when I want to put my head through the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then I actually sometimes have to do the same thing. Sometimes, you know, she comes up to me and she's fantastic at this. She goes, how are you doing? And I go, I don't really know. And she just kind of gives me this little space. And this is the best part. She gives me this little side. It's not like a full frontal hug.
No.
She has learned.
Yeah, no.
But if she gives me a full hug, my cortisol will spike because I'm not ready for the serotonin dump.
It's horrible.
It's like, and it's the worst, right? You know, as a guy, if you're flooded with cortisol, something stressful has happened, and your girl latches on to you.
It's horrible.
And she releases this flood of serotonin. It is toxic in 2 ways. First of all, it takes you out of the zone, makes you dumb.
Yep.
And the second thing is that as soon as she lets go and your cortisol system spikes back up again, it's going to be 2-3 times as bad as it was.
Yeah, it makes my skin. So my wife, early in our marriage, that's what she used to try to do when I would get stressed out. I'd be in one of those moments, like we do, right? I'd be tunnel vision, and she'd say, "How you doing?" I'd say, "I'm fine. I just got to do this project." She'd go, "Okay," and she'd get in front and try to give me a hug, and I'd go, "No," and I'd push back because it would make my skin crawl. The idea of being hugged, and I'd say, "Absolutely not," and she'd go, And she'd be
So heartbroken.
kind of hurt, right? And we were in our very early 20s, and she'd be kind of hurt, like, why doesn't he want my love? And I had to explain to her, like, when I'm in this moment, a hug is the worst thing you can do. I need to get through it. And then when I'm done, then my system is I don't know where to go. That's the moment where you can hug me and help me bring my system back down after the battle is done, right?
Yeah.
After the battle.
Here's the analogy, right? There you are, in your little medieval town, kind of like tending to your house. Then, Ulrich from the nearby village bursts in wanting to pillage and burn. So you pick up this rake and your wife is hanging on to you.
To give you a big hug.
Please.
Yeah, halfway through the fight, right?
Exactly. Doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, after the battle. You hug your husband after the battle.
After he has won.
You bring his nervous system down. That's the thing that women don't realize. You help him bring his system down.
Yes. And then comes victory.
And then comes victory. Yes, exactly. right there on the table. But after that, the nervous system comes down. The healing happens. He's like, oh, hey, I have a bullet wound in all 4 limbs. And you bandage and you nurture and you care. And then he's like, wow, this is incredible. And that's where a woman's moment is to shine.
And that's why, again, let's come back to this, anxious attachment stuff. So yes, it goes both ways. Of course, there's an issue that avoidant men have. But if you're anxious and you're constantly trying to throw your love at the worst possible moment, I'm sorry, you're being exceptionally selfish. It's not all about you and your fucking feelings. Because sometimes life is just dangerous. Sometimes it's not the right time. Love is a luxury. Right? We understand that. We crave that as the absolute epitome of existence. We also know that we sometimes must sacrifice it in order to protect the bottom of the triangle.
Especially as men.
Especially as men. I would love to have the opportunity to sit and cuddle my wife and my many children and my dog and whoever else forever.
Right.
That is the luxury I allow myself for such finite amounts of time, so I can go back to the shithole that is the rest of reality and enable me to have that and them to have more of it, hopefully exponentially more than me. And if you go and you belittle me for that, then fuck you, is my answer. Because honestly, you're not listening, you're not responding to, you're not understanding what life is. And unfortunately, in many cases, girls who have been brought up by fathers who have overprovided for them without helping them understand that there's not always a good time, that is what's happening.
I will never forget the moment that my oldest daughter, she's 6, I'll never forget the moment that she decided to try to play that card of you don't love me. And she did that to me. I remember we were staying in the hallway. She was close to her bedroom door. I told her no about something. And she said, you don't love me. And I stood there for half of a second. My heart and my chest was
That hurts.
I was like, oh. And my wife from the other room came in. Yeah. And launched. Do you have any idea what your father does for you? And just went. I almost had to pull her off. Not physically violent, but just the amount of do you know what your father does for you? Kind of moment was to me was like a warmth. But then it was okay. And then I had to talk with my daughter. Look, you don't owe me for the things I do for you. I don't do them to you and do them for you and then you owe me. I do them because of my love for you. If you want to continue in a sustainable, perpetual relationship where we are both cared for and loved together, then this is what I would like from you in return. But I will always love you and care for you at the same time.
Yeah, but here's the problem. That is your daughter.
Yes.
Now, if your girlfriend or your wife is constantly in that little girl mode,
very different.
You are preventing your man from attaching to you because you're always a little girl. And that is not sexually attractive.
No.
That is not psychologically attractive. That is not love. They are simply your handler. You're refusing to leave that hallway as a 6-year-old and you're constantly demanding attention. And when you're told no, you throw a tantrum and you try to pull every manipulative card in the book. At that point, you're the toxic anxious. You're the problem, right? Now you got to realize one thing. Right? First of all, very few people stay at the extremes. That's a personality disorder.
Yes.
If you're toxic, anxious all the time, that's a personality disorder.
Yes.
If you are manipulative, avoidant all the time, that's a personality disorder.
Yes.
Very few people actually have personality disorders. They shift down the scale. I shift down the scale.
Based on the situation.
I'm sure there's days when I'm toxic too. I'm sure there are days. right? Maybe on some work calls. My producer's slowly losing hair. But my case in point being is that you actually have tremendous controls of these behaviors, and you also have to realize you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. Your job with your partner is to help them manage the bad days, to also help ensure the good days. However, if you're simply enabling that behavior, you're actually going to be making more bad days.
Yes.
So what advice do you have for the avoidant when their anxious partner shows up and says, you don't love me?
Well, this is going to be redundant for most avoidant men, but I will say this. Don't accept that level of manipulation. No avoidant man in the world should ever accept manipulation ever, period. So let me be very, very clear and blunt for the avoidant men out there who think I'm simping for women. Do not accept that. Don't accept manipulation ever from anybody. Number two, though, recognize that if you are in a relationship with someone, their feelings do matter, and you have taken on some responsibility. If you want to be the driver of the car, you now must take the responsibility of being the driver, recognizing that you have asked her to sit in the passenger seat. So she is now a passenger in your vehicle. You now have responsibility for her feelings and her care. So definitely do take responsibility for that component, and don't say your feelings are not my problem. So you must balance between not accepting abuse, but also listening. Call her to account. Lead her, right? I know it's not popular, and all the red pill guys have ruined this, that men are, if you say lead your wife appropriately, it's like, oh, abuse her, control her. Man, no, never. Mm-hmm. But servant leadership.
Yeah.
Servant leadership. That is the key here.
But also a human level of compassion, right? For yourself and for your other person,
yes.
right? And this is the point where you got to understand, sometimes life is going to throw things your way. You're going to go subpar, sub your own par at that point. Your woman will sense that, and she will go dig at it. My daughter does this all the time. We always have an argument when I have a bad day, and it's like she purposefully will find it.
Yeah, they sense
she will
the weakness.
spend hours trying to dig and dig and dig.
Yeah.
And there's been some days when she'd find it, and we have an argument, and then we have to resolve it. And there's some days when I could get her to bedtime, and then she falls asleep, and I walk out, and I collapse on the floor. Oh, thank God.
You've called me from the floor before. Adam, I am on the floor. It smells weird. I need a new cleaning lady. You've done that before.
And you collapse because oh my God, I just survived the absolute 12 rounds with Mike Tyson, and I crawled out of there with missing teeth and an eye.
Yeah.
Right? Because it feels that bad. And you got to realize, so first of all, you're having a bad day. Chances are your woman is not going to challenge you when you're having a great day. She's going to challenge you when you're having a bad day because she senses something's off. It's going to set off the anxiety component. She's going to come at you. As soon as she comes at you, this is already a fight before you even know it. So put on your fighting gloves, put on your armor, control your emotions, control your anger. You trained for this. You've built your avoidant armor for this. Put it the on, and then start being the adult. You're good at this. Start being the adult and say, hey, hon, you seem very worried right now. Ask questions. You seem very worried right now. I understand you're upset. You see, and this is the best part, that was one of the best that Adam has ever given me, was explain the situation. You see, I'm very worried about work right now because we had some financial difficulties or a contract, didn't get paid or something. So I'm very absorbed in that, and I'm very annoyed at some people. So it's not you. But how can I help you right now? I have a few minutes. I'm going to take them away. I have a work call coming up next, and I do have to be on that call, and I have to be attentive, but I would like to spend a few minutes with you.
Wonderful.
Do that. 99% of the fight is gone. However, you got to realize that you're going to say then, okay, and when I'm done that call, we're going to put the kids to bed, and I promise you from 9 until 9:45, I'm going to be yours, and we can have a full conversation then.
Clear designated time when you're going to continue. Yeah. So many women will hear this and they'll say, you're telling the man to be the adult in the relationship. And many women will say, well, I am being the adult in the relationship and he's not. Ladies, to your side, being the adult in the relationship means disciplining your own feelings, disciplining them so that they can be useful. Your feelings are not useful if they are not disciplined and not measurable, and if you're not in control of them. So regulate yourself as the adult. That is you being the adult. And then you can bring measurable, useful data to him, and it is his responsibility to meet you and also be an adult so that he can then work with you on the problems that you have detected.
Mm-hmm. And you will initially maybe have 3 to 5% of your arguments end up in that space. And that's success.
Yeah.
That's 3 to 5% of successful things. All you have to do is to build a sufficient cadence where both of you can feel an ounce of safety and a hope that maybe this argument may be like that. Know that you will fail 95%, then 92, then 90, then 80, then 40, then 20. And maybe by the time you're 75 and like perfect, you'll fail 15% of them. You will always have a percentage of failure. You'll always have bad days. You'll always have a circumstance where there will have to be, one adult and one child in the relationship, and that's going to be the majority of it. Mm-hmm. Try to both be adults. Expect to fail, especially at the beginning. Accept that one person may have to be an adult to care for the other child, and then if you are the child, try to revert back as soon as possible. Understand what's happening in your head. And this is the worst case. If you're both going into your child state, leave.
Get out.
Shut the door. You say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, I can't handle this right now. I need a few minutes. Let's come back to this in 20 minutes. I'm going to go here. You're going to go here. And the other child needs to respect that.
Yep.
Right? I had this when Ellie was about 4. She'd, throw tantrums, and then it was too much. And say, hey, I'm going to step out. I'm going to shut the door. And I'm going to come back to you in 3 minutes. We're going to put on a timer. And for the first minute and a half, she was ramming the door. There was one point when literally my beautiful little 4-year-old picked up a chair, like WrestleMania style, and was just hammering down a door, leaving dents. Like the chair was like half her body weight, screaming like an animal, until she put it down. She sat on it and she calmly waited for the timer to run out. And that's what you want to do, right? So if your other partner, anxious or avoidant, is, as soon as you said, I'm going to take space, and you've taken that space and they're hammering on the door from the other side, do not respond. Let them calm down. If you are the banging child, stop as soon as you humanly can and realize that the argument is going to end there, as opposed to have to continue for hours or days. Or years, for that matter. So just knowing how to stop is very important.
Fully agreed. Andrey, this has been a fantastic conversation. It was a long time coming, and I've loved it. I hope everybody at home has benefited from it.
What have you learned?
What have I learned? I have learned that you and I are basically on the same page.
Oh, that's good.
That's
good. Encouraging.
I came from an anxious place when I was younger and fixed my anxious attachment. You've come from an avoidant place and have fixed that. You and I have met in the middle, which is fantastic. I hope that everybody at home has enjoyed it. And the comment section is probably flooded with either agreement, disagreement. Tell me, agree, disagree, every hate. Tell us in the comments, you guys. This was drawn from your comments. This was drawn from the things you've been interested in. This is the things that you have talked about. On a previous episode, Andrey, did we keep you from the comments? You didn't see what the ladies were saying about you in the previous Avoidant Man episode?
I saw it.
You saw some? Okay.
100%.
All right,
I read all the comments.
That's why you came in fiery this time. Okay. Well, that's all right. Ladies, leave the comments. He will definitely read them. Tell him about his hair. Tell him that. I did see a woman, she rated your hair 7 out of 10. That's how angry she was. Correct. Yeah, exactly. So leave the comments. We are definitely reading them. We're definitely responding to them. Let us know how we did in this episode. Andrey, if they want to contact you personally with their threats or their love or whatever it is, where can they find you?
At Adam Lane Smith for the threats on Instagram. At Andrey Korikov for the love and the hair comments. No, nothing below a 8.5 at the very minimum. Right. The rest goes to Adam.
And ladies, I'm sorry, but you will never compare to his girlfriend. She is fantastic, so you're never going to be able to weasel in there. But don't even try.
Yes. One thing I really want to point out, right? So this is a perfect example of how these conversations truly go. The avoidant man is always going to be annoyed. And this is a predominant comment I've read. Is like, why is Andrey so angry? I'm angry because I'm trying to show you the internal conversation that happens, right? We're very frustrated, very annoyed, very upset, we're very lonely on the inside.
All the time.
Correct. And we're trying to do our best to try to get us and our family forever away from that into a state of love and well-being. And all we need to do is get you to please help us, as opposed to running off as a little kid and screaming at us that we're not giving you enough chocolate bars. Right? So please understand that internally there is a lot of turmoil and conflict. You have a different, turmoil and conflict if you're anxious. You're probably worried or you're resentful or whatever. We just have different challenges, right? And the fact that they're different doesn't make one better or worse. They just require different management styles. You watched Adam manage me throughout this podcast, and you can see how well he directs the conversation. So while some of this is real, some of it, of course, is a little bit of a reenactment of the conversations we've had.
You just let it off the leash is what it was.
Just a little bit. You know,
it wasn't fake. You just let it off the leash,
Just
which
a
is
little
good.
bit.
Yes, because we're friends.
Exactly. And that's actually what you're trying to do, is you're actually trying to build a respect-based friendship, to give yourself that common purpose and find that love that you actually are going to enjoy, not 24/7. No love is 24/7 until you're in heaven, I hope. But you're actually going to be able to carve these moments out. And that is going to be sometimes the best you got. But it's much better than nothing, because if you're avoidant, you're going to go back to the cortisol dopamine spike, which is terrible. And if you're anxious, I don't know what the heck place you go to, but I don't think it's great either. So my point being here is understand that both of you are human. When avoidants say affect your feelings, they are absolutely going to their little boy state, and they don't really quite mean it. But they don't really know how to manage them yet. So you can go into your little girl state and then say, well, fuck you too. Or you can go into your adult state and help them work out of that way. Eventually, people say, why does the anxious woman have to manage the avoidant man? She doesn't. Actually, in a relationship, if both people are having a challenge, at least one of them has to be the adult. And if you're the anxious woman and you have that capacity, please do that. And if you're the avoidant man and you have that capacity, please do that. In fact, make it a rule that whoever can get to adult state first gets there and stays there until the second person get there too. And you guys will be okay. It doesn't matter if you're anxious or avoidant. This is not a trade. This is not a business. This is a relationship. So whoever is in a better capacity helps the other, and then eventually you'll see that the roles will switch. And if you think you're the bestest and you're the most responsible, fantastic. Use that energy. Get your partner to a better level, realize you're going to fail and burn out sometime, and then watch them help you get through the next stage. And you'll have this ratcheting effect, which is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. But on that end...
It's warming my heart to hear this. It's been three years and he's grown up so much.
I tried. His coaching is fantastic. I really got to say, his coaching is really good because it's personal, right? You go at my level, and while I love the courses that we've made together, and I've put a lot into the courses, and you've put a lot into the courses to try to structure them in a way that makes sense, the personal component, the tonality of your voice, the way that you approach things. You've seen these conversations, right? Actually, I'm happy we had this little argument. So people can actually understand that they can be themselves around you, and they can be the little kid that Adam can help get to the stage of an adult and train them to stay an adult. That's really important. I'm excited for your retreat. I'm going to be there as well, coaching people with you, which is going to be really interesting.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be one of the people on whom you get to practice.
Yeah. So there's actually two things that I want to talk to you about. And people at home, you're welcome to listen in. But so the retreat component where people are going to come, and it's only about 25 people. I don't want more than that.
Yeah.
I want it 25 so we don't have 1,000 people and I'm on a stage. I want 25 people you and I can talk to and train and help and have those experiences and have these conversations with, so they go home changed forever from 3 days. They get 5 years of practice and experience in from those days during the retreat. Number one, that's coming at the end of the year. And number two is I can't coach everybody in the world. I'm realizing that. You told me something a long time ago. You said you will never change the world from a farm in Wisconsin. And that's true. I've had to travel quite a bit, but also there's no way for me to personally coach every person on the planet. So I have been very, very carefully filtering just a couple of very carefully trained therapists that I think I'm going to bring in. And I want to talk to you about this a little bit later, but I think there's a couple of people I trust enough to take on some coaching under me and use my attachment methods to start working with my best clients, to start getting that experience. I don't think it's just Adam Lane Smith anymore. I think fixing the attachment through these methods that you and I have built over the last 3 years, it needs to expand into a system where I can have, I don't want to say send out people, that sounds weird, but I can have very carefully handpicked coaches with the right training that can help people on a larger scale than I can by myself.
We have learned a tremendous amount about people, psychology, and attachment itself in practice after building and running Adam's business has been now 2.5 years, almost 3 years.
Well, and you ran Jordan Peterson and built his business before me, so.
You're much more interesting to me. So what I like about what we have learned here is that we've learned that, first of all, attachment is a modeling game.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to model it by observing somebody who has it. So first of all, this expansion of the coaching practice, while it of course has to do with giving capacity for more people to join us, it's also about getting different types of people. You are perfect for a large subset of the population, but some women need a woman to speak to.
Yeah.
Some men need to have a different type of man.
Yeah.
At this retreat, you're going to have different actors who will help role play scenarios, and I'm going to be one of those actors. So you can actually come and talk to me, and I will pretend to be different people for you. But eventually, it's going to be about making it more than that. Attachment has to be the thing that heals the world in the way that it allows it to grow up healthily, securely, to take all of these insecure children and adult bodies and allow them to grow into secure, functional adults. And that's what we're trying to do here. So I'm excited for that. And please, everybody, continue watching the development of Adam's brand. We're really putting so much effort into it, and he's doing so much for the world, and I'm really excited for it. Good job, Adam. Very proud of you.
Thank you, my friend. I think I've grown up over the 3 years you've known me as well.
There you go. So that's, I guess, a little business update as well. But here's actually this. I'm going to pause here and say this as a final thought. Look at how this conversation went. We started combatively. We worked through our issues. We've allowed ourselves to become adults. And look at this bonding moment that Adam and I have just had in front of you. This is what you can have with your partner if you just stick to being an adult long enough and actually fix that attachment and decide that you are ready to go from the outer spectrums of avoidant or anxious and bring yourself to the middle where you guys can meet and really have a fulfilling connection and relationship. Here's an example. There's plenty of examples that you guys can follow. So do the work, take the time, and it'll be worth your while. So thank you for joining us on I Wish You Knew. Look up Adam at Attachment Adam on where again?
Instagram and YouTube. I'm at Attachment Adam. I'm also on adamlanesmith.com, where you'll find everything about me that Andrey has helped build over 3 years.
Yep. And you'll see more of Adam's story at veritascreative.media. And for the positive comments, please send them to at Andrey Korikov on Instagram. And all the negative stuff, you hate me, you disagree with me, you want to say fuck you too, Andrey, you should care about my feelings, put them in the YouTube comments section so I can select what I can ignore and what I can respond to. Anyways, thanks for joining us on I Wish You Knew. This was fun, and please see us on the next one. Comment, like, share, hate us, love us, and please tell us what you think.